Today's Daf is Masechtas Nazir Daf Noni Gimel. We are 8 lines from the bottom of Nun, 8 lines on the bottom of Beis Beis, the third word on the line, which is Boira Machama. So the Gemara is going to have a suffix in the Shaila and the din of Tuma of Reiv Kavat Samis of a mace. So clarity Gemara. Boira Machama. Reiv Machama has a Shaila. Roiva Atzamais min Shedro Golgolis. If the Nazir becomes tummy from a shear of Roiva Atzamais, a Roiva Kavatzamis, it's coming from a Shedra and a Golgolis, a spine and a skull of a dead person, of a mace. Is that going to be Saiser, the minion of the Naziris that the Nazir is counting? And is he going to have to cut his hair? That's what most Rishonim learn the Gemara Shaila is. The Gra learns that the Gemara Shaila is only got with the din of Tumas Oyhel of the mace, but not like Gabi Teglachas Nazir. So what's the Shaila? Zak the Gemara Kiktani Chatzi Kavat Samayis. This that it says in the Mishnah, you only megaleach on a half a Kavat Samayis. Is that only Heichadiko Mishare Varav? Is that only when you have bones from his other Evarim which are not so chashav, and therefore you need to have a shir Chatzi Kav? Avol and Shedul Gugus the Chamiri, but if you have bones from the Shedul Gugus which are much more chamer than the rest of the body's Evarim, so maybe it's Yitachan Afilu Roiva Atzamis. Even a Roiva Atzamis would be enough, and it'll be Seiser Minyani. You would not have to have a Chatzi Kav. But Doma Zak the Gemara Loishna, it's not different. So Gemara tries to be pushed at the suffix from the Mishnah. Zak the Gemara Amar Rabba, Zak the Rabba, I'll bring you a right. Tashma, I learned in the Mishnah that a Nazir is Megaleach if he becomes Tamei al Yidei the Shadug Gelis. If he Isal Kadaitach, and if you want to say a Roiva Atzamis, the Asim Shadug Gelis is Chamir. If you want to say that the Roiva Atzamis comes from Shadug Gelis is more Chamir, you don't need to have a Chatzi Kav. So the Chayra and the Shadug Gelis that's complete, you always have a Roiva Atzamis. So, Zak the Gemara, Zak the Rava, Lisni, let the Mishnah say Mashpig Chiddush that is Megaleach al Roiva Atzamis Abam Mishadra. Why does the Mishnah say Ashadra Vagagelis? The Mishnah say al Roiva Atzamis Abam Mishadra, which is less than a complete Shadra and Gelis. And it would have been a bigger chiddush. It's still that another Megaleach on. So behechrich, you have to say that it's not matami only if it is a shadug and gelis that are shleimin, and it's not enough for roiva kavat zamas. Says the Gemara, no. The chayra you need to have the Mishnah to say shadug and gelis to tell you that if it's complete, even if it does not even if it does not have a Reva Kavat Samis, still the Mishnah is telling them Megaleach if they're intact, they're fully intact, even if it doesn't have a Shir Reva Kavat Samis. And for the Gemara, that Basar de Shamer Rabbi Akiva, after Rava heard that Allah from Rabbi Akiva, he was Chayzer, and he agreed that Yitaka can't be Paishet, the suffix from the Mishnah. Zok the Gemara, Rav Taka holds Taka not a right, because you could say that even if Shadug and Gelis is Matame by Reva Atzamis, but Lamaisa, it would the Mishnah stop telling Shadug and Gelis, and it should not say Reva Atzamis, because you still have a case where Shadug and Gelis are Shleimim Lagamri, and in that case it's going to be Matame. Zok the Gemara Tashma, I'll bring you a right from the Bryce before Daf Yomi Nazir Daf. Shammai says, Etzam echad min shedra aymin golgoiles. So the Gemara is understanding that we have the machlok Shammai and Rabbanan. So Shammai say that etzam echad from a shedra of golgoiles, even one bone is enough to be metamim. So the Gemara is understanding even Rabbanan argue on to Shammai and hold that there's no tumas oil. Only time you have tumas oil is only by roiv kavat samis that comes from roiv minyan or roiv binyan of the person. They agree that this tumah to be Shammai, also by Roiva Kav, that comes from Shadug and Gelis, because it's not a staver to Mechalak between Rav Bin, Rav Minyan, and Reva Kava comes from Shadul Goylis. That and just so what's machloikas? Shammai would just hold that etzem achas comes from the shedra is enough to mitame, and the chum hold you need to have a little more. You need to have a Reva Kava Thomas. So Gemara wants to be Posha. The even Rabbanan are arguing Shammai hold the Maisa that Reva Kava Thomas is going to be mitame. He's like the Gemara. Shani Shammai the machmei tvei. No, maybe that's not the machloikas Rabbanan and Shammai. Maybe Shammai is just very machmei more than Chachamim, and he holds a nazim galech on the tumah of Reva Kava Thomas, and also he holds that one etzem from the shedra is enough to be time oil. However, the Shitz Chacham, maybe they argue all together, and they argue on both, and they hold that not only is tumah one etzem from a shedra and is not mitame, but also Nazir is not megaleach on the tumah Reva Kava Thomas. So maybe Shammai holds that tumah of Reva Kava Thomas is mitame, but not the Rabbanan. In fact, the Gemara Iba Zoi Lifshim Minah. Then be punished at the time of Shammai. The only reason that Shammai holds like that etzem achas sometime from a shadow the mach because he's machmer megaleach and tumah Reva Kava Thomas, but the Rabbanan hold that tumah Reva Kava Thomas maybe be punished from this, that it's not matame, and a nazir is not megaleach on it. I think a chatzi Kava Thomas. The whole that has to be a half a Kava Thomas. It's like the Gemara Dilma Adkan Lepligur Rabbanan Alei Shammai. Maybe you could say that the Chum don't argue on Shammai ela ba'etzem echad. Maybe the whole machlokas maybe is only ba'etzem echad that comes from a shedra, one bone that comes from a shedra, but roiva atzamais that comes from a shedra goylas. Either Rabbanan agree that another is megalech. So the Gemara is saying you have no raya. Maybe maybe they would hold your arm megalech where atzamais on when it comes from shedra goylas. But they didn't explain their words to say that, so we don't know what they hold. So you can't be poshet the suffix of Ram Bachama from that machlekes Shammai Rabbanan. Zok the Gemara weiter. The Mishnah said before, when Testament is that a nazir is not magaleach unless he's nitma with a roiva kabat samis. I'm sorry, the Mishnah says that he's not megaleach if he's nitma b'roiva kavat samis. It has to be a half a kavat samis. That's what the Mishnah said. Zok the Gemara is going to bring a brayso. Look at this. Amar Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Lezer said, "Zikenim Rishonim, Miktasam Ha'oyim Chatz Kavat Samis Chatz Logdam." Some of the Zikenim Rishonim said that Chatz Kavat Samis and Chatz Logdam lakoil. Sai legabe. That's usher to eat and to touch truma and kachim, and sai legabe the din of that a nazir and legabe a nazir that it's soiser his minyan and it has to megalech his hair, and so too legabe becoming tummy samlach Pesach he's not allowed to be makar of a korban Pesach, and he has to wait till Pesach Sheni. So the Miksasan of Zikanim Rishonim said that the shear for those things are Chatzi Kavat Samis and Chatzi Legdam, Sai Legabe eating and touching Truma, Sai Legabe Nazir being Galech and Soiser is Minion, Sai Legabe not being able to be Makar B'Korban Pesach. But Roiva Atzamois Zokta Brai, so a Revius Dam and a Revius Log of Dam from a mace, Loi Lakol. So it's not for any of the dinim. That if somebody's Mahil on a roiva tames or a v'yistam is not tamei at all, and is mutter b'achilas truma v'kachim, and kolshkin is not soiser his yemei naziris, or to bring a Pesach, or to have to bring a Pesach Sheni, you could just bring a regular Korban Pesach. So that's the first shita of the miktsas hazakanim that the Brisa brings. Miktsas and hayoyim is the Brisa. The other shita in the zakanim was, and the Brisa is that after roiva tames or v'yistam lakoil. It works to asar and everything to be sois and naziris and bring a Pesach Sheni. There's a third shita, Dr. Bryce about there, Beis Shel Achreim Amru, the Chatzi Kavat Samis and Chatzi Logdam Lakoil, Sai Legabe Trum V'Kachim, and Sai Legabe Geluach HaNazir and Pesach Sheni, it's Mitame. And a Roiva Atzamis or Revius Dam is Mitame for Truma and Kachim, and he's usher in it because it became tamei. However, that's only that he's also in Truma Kacham, Avaloy Nazir Oisa Pesach, not for a Nazir that Saiser Zaziris or for Pesach. There is no dinner Roiva Kav and Revia Salug. They don't have an effect on a Nazir Oisa Pesach. Zok Frekti Gemara Michti Ein Achras Shlishus Machras. L'chayra, we have a rule that the third shita is not a machriya between the first two that argue. So l'chayra, the Mishnah and Halois Perik Beis Mishnah Aleph is mavur like the third shita, the Beis Mishnah Achreim that we just brought, because it says over there that Reva Kavat Samas, Reva Kavat Samas and the Revius Log of Dam doesn't play a role like Gabi Nazir Tagalachas and Isa Pesach, which is more like the Mishnah Nalas. So what's Pshat? Amar B'Yaakov Baridi that no, Beis Mishnah Achreim, they were not machriya this halacha themselves. From Pi Shmua Amru, they would come from the Rebbes that's the halacha. Pi Chagi Zacharia and Malachi. So it's not Pshat that the third shita was machriya between the first two cholkim. It's just that it was a whole different kabbalah they had from the Rebbeim Chagi Zacharia and Malachi. Some are goyas from Shmaya Vavtalion. Okay. Zoktim Gemara Baita. The Mishnah said Al Elu Nazir Megaleach, and it says it twice. It says twice Al Elu Nazir Megaleach. So the Gemara wants to know. So the Shaila Gemara wants to know what's coming to the Ma'it that it says twice Al Elu Nazir Megaleach. So the Gemara Al Elu Dereisha Lamute Etzem Kesera. Al Elu it says in the Reish it's coming to the Ma'it Tuma of Etzem Kesera from a mace Dal Magoy Val Masoi in the Dafkan touching it and holding it and Nazir Megaleach. Valahiloi loy. But Lagabi Oyhel Etzem Kasera, a Nazir is not Megaleach and he's tar. It's not because the Etzem Kasera is not Matam oil. You have to have Dafka Kazayis Basam and Ames. Val Elu the Seifa, what's coming to mind? That Gemara Lamute Even has a chuchis. It's coming to mind stones that stick out of a fence and they kind of like make a little roof for what's under it, and it's Tuma under the Avonim. So the halach is when Nazir goes under those avonim, he doesn't know if he was mal on tumah. It's not says he's made zirus, although he's tumah derabanan, but it doesn't have a din oil to mitame him to mitame is the zirus and besides there's a zirus. Zok the Gemara weiter. The Mishnah said v'chatzi kavat tzomos, that a Nazir that was tummy became tummy from a half a kavat tzomos. And it's Seiser is meaning Naziris, and he has to Megaleach is here, and do whatever another time he has to do. So Zok the Gemara, Chatzikav that Samois in. Zok the Gemara is Medaya, Gedafka Chatzikav that Samois, then it's being going to be Seiser Naziris. But if he only becomes Tomei with a Roivat Samois, a quarter of a Kavat Samois, then it's not going to be Seiser. Although he's Tomei, but it's not Seiser Naziris. So Zok the Gemara, Hey Chidami, what's this talking about? Ilema de Isbahoin. Atzamos Kesayr, if you're going to say that in this Roiva Kavat Tzamos there is a shear of Sa'ira, then why is it not Sa'ir? Typically, Mishametzkim Sa'ira. Typically, al Tzadin of Etzem Kesayr, we know it's Sa'ir his Aziris. Like the Mishnah says that if a Nazir touches Etzem Kesayr, it's Sa'ir Aziris. So Zakti Gemara, Ella, the Akmach Akmuche. It's talking about that it's grinded well. The bone is grinded well, like flour, and there is no etzem kasar. It doesn't even have that shear. So therefore, it's not size of ears unless, like the Mishnah, you have a chatzi kavat tzomos. Zok the Gemara weiter. The Mishnah said that a nazir is also size of ears. Al aver min ames and an aver from a mace. Al aver min achai and an aver from a live person. Sheyesh alehen basar karoi. That it has enough basar on the aver that if it will be attached to a live person, then it would survive. Zok the Gemara, Ein alein basar karoi mai. What happens if on this aver menachayim and ames you don't have enough basar that it would work if it was attached to a live person? So is it size in Naziris if you come time with it or not? So the Gemara says that it's a machloikis. Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Eina Nazir Megaleach Alein. A Nazir is not Tzais and Naziris and is not Megaleach on it. Rish Lakish Amar. Rish Lakish says Ha Nazir Megaleach Alein. Rish Lakish said a Nazir is Tzais and Naziris and he is Megaleach. Zakta Gemara, where do you see, where do Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish get their halachas from? Zakta Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan Amar Ein Naz Megaleach Alein. Rabbi Yochanan holds that Naz is not Megaleach, and if it doesn't have enough basa karoi, Daktani Bereisha, because it says in the beginning of the Mishnah, Nazir is Soiser Megaleach Al Eber B'Nameis Al Eber Achai. Sheish Alein Kazayis Basar. Dafka has a Kazayis Basar, which is enough to work if it was attached to a person. So you can be daik in that. Rabbi Yochanan holds that Dafka has Basar Karoi in. That's when he says that it's he's Megaleach and it's Tama. Aval Ein Aleim, but if it does not have the Basar Karoi, the correct amount of Basar, then it's not Megaleach. And also not untouching it. Where does he know that you are Megaleach, even if it does not have enough Basar Karoi? Because it does not say in the Seif in the Mishnah later on. There's a Mishnah later on in the Daf and Dal. The Mishnah counts Tumas Eivarim that do not have on them enough flesh. Mishnah counts it included in the Tumas that a Nazir is not Megaleach in them. So it's Muchach that. So I'm sorry. So the Mishnah later on the Nandal, the more Mishnah counts things that are not Metame. Another enough that he's Megaleach. The Mishnah does not count one of this, that in this case where Aver from a Chaim Mesa does not have Basar Karoi. So it's mashma that another is Megaleach on that. So Dr. Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan Amar Lecha. Rabbi Yochanan says, you know why? What's Amar Lech? Why is it not counted in the Mishnah as a thing that's not Metame? If that's Takal Allah, like Rabbi Yochanan says. So he says, Kol Echad Amashra Machlala Loik Tani V'Seifa. Anytime you can daik from the Reisha a halacha, then it would not say that halacha in the Seifa. So therefore, in the Seifa, it's not counted in the din of Tumas Eivar. It doesn't count the din of Tumas Eivar and don't have an Basar Karoi, because you can daik in the Reisha, because the Reisha says that it has to have a Kazayas Basar Karoi. It's masham klaradid in the Reisha that it's not Soiser Behead and it's not Megaleach in it if it does not have Basar Karoi. So frekting Gemara, we see it says in the Mishnah before that a Nazir is Megaleach and Chatzi Kavat Tzomos. It's mashma. Chatzi Kavat Tzomos in. It's not if he has a half a Kavat Tzomos, but a Roivat Tzomos loy, but a quarter or not. So frekting Gemara and V'Ktari Seifa, and still you see in the Seifa, the Seifa says Roivat Tzomos. It says that he is Megaleach in it. What do you mean? You have a deek from the Reisha, not like that. It's like Gemara Hassam over there. Lagabe Dinner Roivat Kavat Tzomos. Ilab Roiva Tzomos, if it would not be mentioned in the Seifa that a Nazir is Megaleach on a Roiva Kavat Tzomos, I would say Afilam Hagoy Hamasoy Loi, that even on touching and on holding a Roiva Kavat Tzomos, or Nazir is not Megaleach. It's a Chlemisni Seif, and that's what I have to tell you in the Seifa, Roiva Tzomos, to tell you that Dalahilanu Deina Nazir Megaleach, that Dafka, if he's Mahil on a Roiva Kavat Tzomos, He's not Megaleach and it's not Seizin Ziris, but the Seifas comes specifically to tell you that I'm not going, I'm a son, I'm just touching and holding it, that there is a din Giluach. And it's Seizin Ziris. So Frek the Gemara, Vaha Chatzi Logdam, that we see it's before in the Mishnah before that a Nazir is Megaleach and a half a Logdam. So the Shamin, Alachar, you would think, seemingly you would say that you can be daik in that, the Chatzi Log Dam in, but Revius Dam Loi, but on Revius he would not be Megaleach. And Lamaisa still you see, Bechol Zois, Ktani Seifa, it says that a Nazir is not Megaleach on Revius Dam. So it's a kasha on that concept that we are going to explain. Because you see, it's Meduik in the Seifa, Dafka Chatzi Log, and not a Revius Dam. So why does the Seifa tell you a Revius Log Dam? You're not Megaleach on. L'chari, that's mavur from the Diik and the Reisha. So, and for the Gemara, Hassam, like I Revius Dam from a maze, the mission is to tell you the halacha, Lafukim in the Rebbe Kiva. The reason why it's to tell you the halacha that Revius Logdam is not work for Din Giluach is Lafukim the Rebbe Kiva, that tells you, that holds on later on Daf Yomi Nazir Daf, that another Megaleach even on Revius Dam from a maze. And rather, the Mishnah has to tell you that Shittas Rebbe Leza, that argues on Rebbe Kiva and holds that another is not Megaleach only on a half a logdam from a mace. Rabbi Kiva says Revius Dam, a Baba Shnei Mason isn't Tam Boil. So the safest tell you to look Rabbi Kiva. Zok de Gemara, Hai Avim Na Mace, Heichi Dami. This Avim Na Mace that we discussed, that the Mishnah said, and that Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish had a machlokes on when it does not have basar karoi, what is it talking about? Either ispe etzem kisa oira, if it has a shear of etzem kisa oira, then my time in the Rabbi Yochanan, then why does Rabbi Yochanan hold? Why does Rabbi Yochanan have to say l'charetz before Mishnah and knows megaleach on maga etzem kisa oira? So I'm sorry, forget. Well, how does Rabbi Yochanan hold that no, it's not megaleach charetz before Mishnah? Either less etzem kisa oira, and if it does not have a shear etzem kisa oira, then why does Rish Lakish hold that it is metame l'chayra? It's not metame at all. So how is it shaykh and it doesn't megaleach on this tumah? It's not even metame. It doesn't have a shear etzem kasayra. Zok the Gemara, Amar Lach Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish is going to tell you that pshat why it's metame is the dingaluach and that's tzayis his ears. La'olam neles be etzem kasayra. It's talking about that there's no shear etzem kasayra. Afilu hachi rachmana rabbi still the Torah is marber that it's metame maga. Midin Thomas Aver Shalom has a din like Aver Shalom, even though it does not have Basa Karoi. And Mela Nazir is Megalech. And at the Tanya we learned at a Brisa. It says in the Pasuk by Midbar Perik Yutes Pasuk Tes Zayin V'chol Asher Yigal Panei Asada B'Chalal Cherev Oy B'Meis. So we learn out that it says Oy V'Etzam Adam Oy V'Kavar, anything that touches V'Chalal Sada V'Cherev B'Meis Al Panei Asada. It's talking about Zehamal al Panei Meis, that somebody makes an oil on Panei Meis, that he's tamei even though he does not touch it. Why? Because it does not say V'chol asher yiga b'meis hasadeh. It says V'chol asher yiga al Panei hasadeh. So we learn from that somebody that makes an oil on top of a mace that's laying in a field is a din oil. And since the pasuk starts off talking about tumas oil, so also we say the rest of the types of tumas that the pasuk lists is also matam ba'oil. So b'chalal ze iver menachai. B'chalal, what it says b'chalal is talking about in the pasuk, it's talking about an iver menachai that got detached from the person. V'yesh lo lahalas arucha, that could be misrapa. So in that case, if somebody touches it or is mal on it, he's tamei. So b'chalal, that's what you learn out from b'chalal. Cherev tells you that a metal kli, which is kecherev, is hareza kechalo, has a din like the mace himself. That's metame tumas shiva. Anybody that touches it or anybody that makes an oil on it. Oy b'mace is talking about ze'ever hanechlal min hameis, so ever that gets detached from a mace. Anybody that touches it or makes an oil is tamei. Oy be'etzem adam, when it says oy be'etzem adam, it's talking about roy ba'atzamais, that somebody touches or roy ba'atzamais or is mal. Comes tamei. A kever is a kever sasan. When it says a kever, it's talking about a kever sasan, which means that the grave is tamei with maga or ba'oil from all sides of it, even in a case where he makes an oil on the sides of the kever, it's not mamish directly on top. The Omar Mar tuma by kasva oil, because we say that tuma that does not have a hefsek of a space of tefach on top of the grave is by kasva oil, and some time anything that becomes that's the oil on top of it. But Kasvi Redis, and also at the same time, it is metame anything that's put under it. Zok the Gemara v'ilu gabe negia. However, legabe the dinim of negia tama. Amar of Yehuda says, Tani will learn in a brisa that darshans the pasuk that says in the middle of paragraph test pasuk yitches chal negia be'etzam be'bechalol or be'meisa be'kever. So we learn out from here that anybody that people get tuma b'maga be'etzam ze'etzam kasayra. Be'etzam means when it says chal negia be'etzam it means a shira etzam kasayra. Oiva chalol ze'iver hanechlo, like it's detached from achai. Ve'ein boy does not have enough basar lahalis arucha in order to survive if it was attached to a goof of a person. Of a mace, ze'iver hanechlo on a mace, that's the ear gets cut off from a mace. Of a kever, Rish Lakish says that kever shalafnei hadibur. So a kever that before the times of Matan Torah, the halacha is that somebody that touches it is tamei. So Zakti Gemara, how does Rish Lakish darshan that where do you take see Rish Lakish darshan that an aver does not have enough basar karoi in order if it will be attached to a goof, it still becomes metame and that it would be metame and nazir. Zok the Gemara, hi aver min ameis. That's a tayamaga heichidami. Zok the Gemara, so hi aver min ameis heichidami. What's it talking about? And what kind of matzav is it standing? Either ispe etzem kasayra if it has takashir etzem kasayra and haina negei etzem. That's already the drasha with the darshan. As the sraba that you touch a etzem that has a shir etzem kasayra, you don't need to have another drasha. So elamai, So what do you need to have the words over mace? What's that telling you? So Ella Behechach, the Bryce is talking about the less be'etzim Masara, that this bone does not have the shir etzim Masara. Afila hacharech mana rabbi teres mamar in the words over mace to tell you that although this aver is not matame ba'oil, but since because it does not have a basa karoi, it has to have enough flesh on it in order that it would be attached to a human, it would work. We call makoim, it's matame b'maga, and mela on nazir is megaleach on it, although it's only matame b'maga and there's no din on it. But Dr. Gemara, Amalach Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan is going to be matched this right from the rise as limit, because we say la olam de ispe. I'll tell you that it does have a shir etzim kaseira, this aver minachai minames. So if it has a shir etzim kaseira lechayra, it's pasha. What's probably why Rabbi Yochanan holds it's not matame, and pasha has a din geluach and sois and aziris. So Dr. Gemara, inin lamagoy tenein lamasai. That although we learn the din, so Dr. Yochanan. It has etzim kasara, but it's going to come tell you the din, not maga, but it's going to come tell you the din masa. That if he carries it, then he's going to become tamei. So although you learn the din etzim kasara is matame maga from the words in the geba etzem, but so Yochanan is saying you don't have the extra thing to tell you that even though it's not etzim kasara matame maga, he's saying no, maybe it's coming to tell you that not only is it matame maga, but it's also matava masa. So therefore, Teres tells you the words are amazed that's also matava masa.